Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's new episode on The Radical Show. I'm your host, Radical XD, and thank you so much for tuning in, even though you really aren't tuning in because this isn't live. But in some way, shape, or form, someone's listening to this somewhere, whether it be Spotify, YouTube. I don't know how I'm going to present these podcasts, but it's something I'm doing for this class and hopefully it goes somewhere. So for today's episode, that's our little introduction right there. But today we'll be mostly diving into video games that I'm currently into right now. But before we go into that, I would like to talk about the podcast setup. So last week I was talking about the possibility of maybe using like live footage or like an actual camera and like a background and stuff, but at the same time I don't really have many guests with me right now. For the moment, it's still just me. I hope you can bear with me that way, but at the same time, it gives me more room to just rant about whatever I want to talk about. Like, yes, having a guest would be somewhat productive, but at the same time, you just kind of run out of things to talk to someone. I mean, even me and Marky Mark at Cinema Watchers at WJMU, we have our little, we have moments where we just kind of run out of things to say, like I'd be talking to him about one thing and then he goes blank. And then I ask him, oh, did he watch something? And he goes like, nah. And it can get pretty awkward. But yes, I'm glad to be doing this. Yeah, in terms of the future setup for the podcast, I'm not sure if I want to do video podcasts anymore. Definitely if I decide to keep doing this podcast long after I finish school, then obviously by that point in time I would probably save up enough money to get like an actual setup, like, a background, a couch, a microphone, all that stuff, but for the moment, it's just me, just working with what I got, and the best I can do is just share my voice, and I hope that can be enough, and I'd like to go with it forward. I don't know what that means in terms of editing. Maybe I can put in some sound cues like Fred from iCarly. I don't know. Maybe I can use like an intro music and then like an outro music. I haven't really thought that far about it, but it's just right now it's just me. So I guess the first thing I would like to talk about is Helldivers 2. So everyone, or I don't know about everyone, but a lot of people within the video game community have been talking about Helldivers 2, and it definitely got my attention. I was definitely interested. I saw some gameplay footage. It looked really fun. At the same time, I wasn't sure if it was my cup of tea, but a few of my friends, or actually one of my friends, got it, and she said it was amazing, and that kind of convinced me to get into it. And thankfully, I will say, Helldivers is definitely cheaper than most new games. New games nowadays tend to cost around $70 to $80, believe it or not. But the standard edition of Helldivers 2 is only like $40, I think it was like 43, with the tax, but it's not bad. And basically, for those of you who aren't aware of Helldivers 2, it's an online game where you can play with a squad of 4, and we're not fighting anyone, but it's basically Star Troopers. If you haven't seen Star Troopers, it's basically space soldiers against aliens, and it's really, really fun. It can be really, really hilarious. So basically, you go into the game, we're on a warship, and there's a whole galaxy map. There are sectors with multiple planets. Each planet has multiple locations and missions to accomplish. And essentially what your main goal is to land on the planet with your squad of friends, or maybe a squad of randoms you meet online, and just complete the mission. And whatever the mission objective is, you try to do it, you do the job, and then you extract yourselves out of there. And it's pretty simple, and it can be repetitive, but it is Well, it is literally one of the funnest things I played in a good long while. I mean, basically we're fighting against all these alien little creatures, and they're both terrifying, annoying, scary, and challenging, and it can be very fun because the game's features you can run like in most games. However, you can't jump, which is weird. Most games you press X, you jump. Not this game. This game just doesn't believe in jumping, and obviously this game could take some pointers from what Dark Souls or Elden Ring, the whole dodge mechanic. Because in this game, there isn't really much dodging. You kind of dive onto the ground and you're like prone, then you can shoot from the ground, which is definitely one of the funnest aspects of the game. They definitely treat ammo as if it's like the real world. You can't just constantly reload your magazines, because in most video games, like, you shoot 3 bullets, you reload it, and bam, it's presto. But in this game, you really have to, you gotta be smart with your ammo, because you gotta constantly call in resupplies to loot up on ammo and supplies, because it's definitely challenging, and it is one of the funnest aspects about the game. And one of the funniest things about playing it with my online friends is that friendly fire is a thing, because they treat this as if you're like it's actual war, like you're soldiers. You got to be smart with your ammo. You got to be smart with strategies and stuff, and you got to make sure you don't friendly fire. And it's some of the funniest, but also dumbest things I've ever done in a video game. I remember, me and my friend, who shall remain nameless, but we're playing Helldivers 2 recently, and we're getting overrun by aliens and stuff. They're kind of like the arachnid creatures, and they're like giant insects, which is disgusting and terrifying, but there's so many of them. We start panicking. We throw grenades and accidentally kill someone with a grenade. And then sometimes you be shooting at them, and then your friend isn't paying attention, and the dumbass just runs in the line of fire and just gets killed by your own bullets. And it is literally one of the funniest experiences I've had, and I am so glad that I decided to get this game. And so far, I've had a blast with it. But it's definitely, I would say this is a game I would only recommend you getting if you intend to play with friends, because playing this game alone with randoms that you probably won't be able to talk with, it could get boring really, really fast. This is definitely a game you would want to play with 3 friends, because it's only a squad of 4. So if you got like 10 online friends, you're gonna have to rotate with each other. So, but aliens are not the only thing you're killing, and when I mean aliens, they're usually like wild creatures. They attack you. I guess they're trying to eat you. Whereas there's also something called animatons, or I don't know what they're called. I think they're cyborgs or they're robots. But those guys actually shoot back with you. They have reinforcements, shuttles, artillery, and it's basically Terminator, and it's so much fun. And I mean, I don't really have much bad things to say about Helldivers. It has a simplicity to it. Every time you complete a mission, you get like these gold medals, and with these gold medals, you can save up to unlock other guns, other artillery. Because basically, you can like call in orbital strikes, call in supply crates. It's kind of complicated, but you can get used to it pretty fast. The tutorial's simple and easy to understand. But yeah, I don't have much to say in terms of criticism for Helldivers. I will say, I wish there was an easier dodge or roll mechanic, because it definitely makes the game harder. But I can definitely see why they did it, to add the challenge for it. But if you're looking for a game that you want to play with friends and have a good time, I definitely recommend Helldivers. It is something you can get into for a good long while. Maybe not forever, but it's definitely up there. So yeah, I give Helldivers 2 a pass, a thumbs up. But some really exciting news that came out not long ago, which actually it came out of nowhere, was that the original Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 are coming to all new gen consoles with an online multiplayer multiplayer playing base, and it's just no one saw this coming. I never once in a million years thought this game was going to come out, but here I am looking at all the trailers, and I'm excited. I mean, if it's truly for those who are nostalgic about the old days, this was a game from my childhood. I love the original Star Wars Battlefront, and to watch both of the original Battlefronts to be brought back to new gen and be able to play online, because back then, I never played online in Battlefront. I guess I didn't know how to do it, or my parents didn't know much about technology back in the day. But to be able to get this second chance to play online with my friends, especially with this old Battlefront, is definitely a dream come true. And I'm very, very excited to be playing with it, especially with the inclusion of new characters. And yes, the graphics aren't to par with today's standards, but I don't really care about that much. So I'm very excited for the old Battlefront to come back. So yes, I'm looking forward to it. It comes out in a few weeks here in March, and I think it was like $30 something. But definitely, if you're like an all time Star Wars fan, or you know this game from when you were a kid, definitely get it. I know for a fact it's gonna be fun. But something I think is funny to talk about is my current Fortnite obsession. So for like the longest time, I was Fortnite's greatest hater. I didn't give a shit about Fortnite. I didn't care about it. I thought it looked stupid. I thought it was for kids. I never gave two shits about Fortnite. I never wanted to play it. Never wanted to play a dime for it. Not to mention that back in the day, I really hated Battle Royale games, because I got sick of playing a game, trying really hard, only to die by some bullshit or something like that. So Fortnite definitely wasn't for me. But back in December, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 was coming out, and they released the Jujutsu Kaisen characters in like the item shop. And I guess I was in a really big Jujutsu Kaisen mood, so I said, fuck it. I bought the skins. I decided to play Fortnite with my friends, and I had a blast. And now this only applies to zero build, because building is for losers. Anyone who likes the original form of Fortnite, I can't agree with you. I can kind of understand it, but it's just not for me. It's part of the reason I never liked the game. So when I found out that zero build was a thing, I was like, okay, I gave Fortnite a chance, and I've enjoyed it. And I've enjoyed it so much these past, I guess, 2 months, or 2.5 months probably. But I enjoyed it so much that I ended up putting a bit too much money into it. I got way more skins than I need to, but I'm gonna try to cut back there. But yeah, Fortnite is definitely a really fun game to play with friends. Even though some friends, like to be very competitive with it, trying to get the most kills, thinking they're the main character to do all of the work, only to end up dying easily. But yes, so yeah, it's just a little fun thing I'm doing. But yes, Spider-Man 2, the video game. Actually, I might actually save Spider-Man 2 for another video. I think I'm cutting it close. I don't want to make these podcasts that long, maybe like 13 to 15 minutes, or I mean, if I ever get a guest on here, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. But yes, Spider-Man 2, I know New Game Plus is coming out for that, and I'm excited for that. I'll share my thoughts on that in probably a future video, but definitely not today. Plans, so I still plan to review the sequel trilogy. The reason why I keep coming back to the sequel trilogy is because I'm an all-time Star Wars fan. I'm a big-time nerd, and I have a lot of stuff to say about those movies. I mean, I guess I could go into a little with the Force Awakens, but I don't know. I don't know how to go about it. I will say, I don't know. I don't know. All right. So for Force Awakens, nah. I will talk a little bit of Force Awakens. So yeah, Force Awakens review. All right, it's a short one. Because honestly, I don't really have much to criticize Force Awakens for, other than yes, it is pretty much a carbon copy of A New Hope. They definitely did. They played the safest route, soft reboot, and if there's anything that I loved about George Lucas, despite what he did with the prequels, is that he takes risk. He's willing to do anything new for his story, and I can respect and appreciate that from George Lucas. Whereas Disney, they obviously when they bought the rights to Star Wars, they wanted to make the sequel trilogy because, for one, it's Star Wars. Everyone wanted to see the sequel trilogy, the continuation to the greatest movie trilogy of all time. They knew everyone and their mom wanted to see it, so they made immediate plans to make a sequel trilogy with Star Wars Episode VII. And they also knew that Star Wars fans could be very, very emotional and vocal about their thoughts about the films, especially with all the backlash that the prequels got back in the day when they first came out. So it's like Disney decided to play it safe, and they followed similar story beats with A New Hope. And in all honesty, it worked. Like, yes, about a few months or weeks after Force Awakens came out, the fans started complaining on the internet, oh, it's just a carbon copy of A New Hope. But at the same time, they weren't fooling anyone. I mean, it was definitely intentional. I mean, I remember going into the theaters, and when I saw Poe Dameron, put the plans or the map towards Luke Skywalker and BB-8, I was like, oh, it's just like Princess Leia with R2-D2 and the Death Star plans. I thought it was a nice nod. So, watching them do it similar to A New Hope, it didn't really bug me, but I can understand why people were criticizing it so much. But they played it safe, and in all honesty, Force Awakens, I did enjoy it. I was Force Awakens' biggest defender. I watched that in movie theaters. I loved it, and I watched it a second time. It was probably one of the best times to be a Star Wars fan for me personally, because Star Wars was back. Obviously, as a kid growing up in the 2000s, I grew up with the prequel trilogy, the prequel era with Revenge of the Sith, the Clone Wars, all that stuff. But getting to watch the new Star Wars trilogy was just an experience that you just can never, I guess, you can never have that again. And I was so excited for the sequel trilogy, and watching it in theaters was just mind blowing. Watching it said a long time ago, and then Star Wars, bam, here we are. This is Star Wars, and they instantly show us with a battle sequence with the First Order attacking the village. They introduce Kylo Ren, who proves himself to be a menacing threat. Then they're like, oh, he's the son of Han Solo, and there was a lot of interesting details with the Force Awakens, and there was a lot of stuff that people criticized about those movies that I didn't agree with at the time. But at the same time, I defended that movie in hopes that they would answer some of these unanswered questions in future films. And we won't go any deeper than that in this episode. But when we do talk about The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, we do know that everything The Force Awakens set up was completely thrown out the fucking window. They just didn't give a shit. But, yeah, I like being me. I like swearing. I don't know why, but yeah, with The Force Awakens, I loved everyone in the film. I think Daisy really did an amazing job. Same with Adam Driver. Adam Driver as Kylo Ren is definitely one of my favorite castings in Star Wars. Even though Kylo Ren is sort of based on Darth Caedus from Legends, who was the son of Han and Leia Solo, but watching Adam Driver as Kylo Ren was definitely a treat in The Force Awakens, and John Boyega knocked it out of the park as Finn. He was definitely my favorite character in The Force Awakens. He had an amazing character arc, and it's just disappointing to see what they did with him in the other movies, but we'll go into that next time. But yes, thank you so much for tuning in here at the Radical Show. I'm very excited to be doing this. So yeah, for next time, I think we'll just dive into the rest of the sequel trilogy with The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker and how much I hate those movies. But yeah, with The Force Awakens, I would probably at the time when it came out, I would have gave it a 7 or 8 out of 10. And I don't like doing decimal points. I think that's kind of cheating. Like, oh, 9 point. Like, no, just if you think it's great, right? So, but yeah, it was definitely 7 or 8 out of 10 back in the day. But considering, that the payoff doesn't pay off very well, I would probably give it a 6. But that's just me being generous. But yes, thank you so much for tuning in at the Radical Show. And this has been your host, Radical XD, signing out. Thank you, everybody.